Demanding, methodical combat, check. Tons of tense boss fights and encounters, check. RPG progression with skill trees, gear modification, and more, check. How about non-open world gameplay, and instead a focus on linear levels punctuated with tons of boss fights with deliberate emphasis on character development and a rich story told in a well-known mythological setting. Add to that the ability to pause the game, even in combat. Died to a boss or enemy? Okay, no problem. We're just gonna take a little bit of experience away as punishment, but don't worry, we're not gonna wipe your bank account just like the rest of these friends. Black Myth Wukong is not a Souls-like game, and while there are indeed numerous similarities to the genre, there are equally a number of other aspects that greatly differentiate it from the genre it is most commonly associated to. We are diving into exactly what this game is and is not, with helpful developer commentary provided by the development team to better look at some of the lesser known elements of the highly anticipated Chinese mythology epic based on Journey to the West, Black Myth Wukong, arriving on August 20th this summer. If you'd like a chance to win the digital deluxe edition paid for by yours truly, consider entering into my giveaway of the game, of which you can enter using the link in the description. Methodical, timing-based combat with precise attacks and dodges, shrines acting as resting spots that also respawn enemies, and chock full of intense boss encounters that demand the player's thorough understanding of their opponent's moveset, these are but some of the things that we are all aware of when looking at Black Myth Wukong. But what a lot of people are getting wrong is the idea that Black Myth is yet another Souls-like game. Black Myth developer Game Science said so themselves, that while they don't consider it a Souls-like game per se, that they give it the more generic term action RPG to denote the fact that it is very much an action game and with RPG mechanics, like leveling and character progression with skill trees, armor and gear rarities, yada yada. If you haven't already seen it, definitely watch this video to get a thorough understanding of the game's combat, mechanics, loot system, and more in this video I did, and then come back and watch this one, because we have some more details, thanks to the developers at Game Science, that indicate some key elements that separate Black Myth Wukong apart from many of the games and genres it is often compared to. Eurogamer, in speaking with a number of the game's developers from Game Science during the Summer Game Fest demo sessions, revealed that there were 3 key areas that the developers differentiate Black Myth Wukong from Soulslikes, with these areas being narrative, difficulty, and finally, level design. In regards to the narrative, a Game Science spokesperson told Eurogamer, "In this whole game, we are intentional to tell a complete story not only about the battles, but also about the characters. We pour our heart into building characters with life and blood, and after playing the game, we wanted players to feel not how strong they are, but how related they are to the main character's experience." As stated earlier, Black Myth has tons and tons of boss fights, as evidenced by the 2-hour boss rush-like demo at Summer Game Fest, but what Game Science is trying to do with these encounters is to more cinematically and deliberately introduce these enemies to the players more directly rather than having players rely on subtle lore drops like from Software's Soulsborne series. Both ways to go about telling the stories of the bosses and the worlds they inhabit are highly effective, as FromSoft has absolutely nailed their rich lore building with subtle hints about the ongoing plot and history of their worlds through exploration, reading item descriptions, interacting with NPCs, and from going toe-to-toe with the game's enemies and bosses. Black Myth Wukong takes a much more direct approach in introducing the characters, boss fights, and setting. As Game Science states, the game deploys a cinematic approach to these elements where the who, what, where, when, and why are directly handed to you through the game's scenes. You don't have to watch lore videos or recaps of Black Myth's story to get a more proper understanding of the title here, and that's not meant at all to take a jab at the Souls-likes out there that prefer to tell their game's stories more ambiguously, but just know that Black Myth Wukong has a great deal more cutscenes to tell its story in a more direct manner. That's not to say that there isn't environmental storytelling at all in Black Myth. Far from it, as Game Science is unleashing the power of Unreal Engine 5 to vividly bring one of Chinese mythology's greatest stories to life throughout the game's incredibly detailed environments and characters. Another pillar of the Souls-like genre is difficulty. Of course, these games are ultimately known for their incredibly rewarding yet punishing difficulty, where one wrong move can set the player back all their unused experience points and send them all the way back to the last safe spot they rested at. While Black Myth Wukong certainly borrows elements here, Game Science is committed to providing players of all levels to enjoy the content of the game. A lot of people find action games very frustrating due to the difficulty, Game Science told Eurogamer. It's not because they don't know how to play, it's because they can't keep up with the rhythm of the game. We are trying to ease that problem for the players who want to experience the story and who want to experience the battles by providing them the different kinds of spells and transformations, and also to make the game less punishing. We want to help players enjoy the game. For those who played the 2-hour demo of the game, all previewers remarked that the shrines to rest at are all conveniently placed before each of the boss encounters, eliminating much of the trek to reach the game's boss fights. In addition, it is said that it is much easier to run past enemies in the game's linear levels here, as the enemies often lose interest in chasing down Wukong throughout these levels. We discussed the gameplay mechanics at length in the previous video here, so definitely catch up on the gameplay here if you'd like a better understanding of the various features, but as the developer stated, players have the ability to transform Wukong into a number of creatures and even boss characters to help the player out, even using spells like Immobilize that literally freezes enemies and bosses for a few seconds, allowing the player to get out of harm's way, dish out some damage, or get a nice swig from the healing gourd. Another area where Black Myth greatly differentiates itself from Soulslikes is in its level design. Soulslikes are known for their vast, interconnected, and sometimes open-world designs, and while Black Myth Wukong is said to have some larger levels, most of the levels in the game are, well, pretty linear, offering very few branching paths, and of the some that are a little larger, they sport secrets including hidden gear, boss fights, and NPCs. It's a linear game propelled by the storyline, said a spokesperson from Game Science. In some levels, the map is much bigger than what you just had, referring to the 2-hour demo at Summer Game Fest. However, we won't say that we're an open world game. Many often compare this game to the recent Stellar Blade and even the Norse God of War games, as they largely feature linear levels and environments, but these games do provide some vast open areas for the player to let loose in and really explore for optional content. While we have yet to see anything at this scope here in Black Myth Wukong, the fact that Game Science mentioned that some levels are indeed much more expansive than the levels featured in the demo means there is some potential for greater exploration in the game's environments. It is also confirmed that Black Myth Wukong is level-based, meaning that none of the game's levels are connected seamlessly. So, here is a small list of the game's elements that differentiate it from games that it is often compared to. A direct cinematic approach to the game's storyline and characters via the use of a good amount of cutscenes, more forgiving gameplay that is less punishing, much more linear level design employed throughout the game with some levels being a bit more open, players can pause the game even while in combat, players lose only a fraction of their experience points upon death, players can transform into a variety of creatures, including boss characters. The game contains a skill tree for RPG progression and solely features Wukong's staff as a weapon, and a bit more. You get the idea here. There is plenty here that differentiates it from other action RPGs out there, whether they are Souls-likes or not, but regardless, it really seems like the quality of the game speaks for itself here. Not one person who played it said that the game felt stale or uninspired. Rather, the game was the most beautiful depiction of Sun Wukong we've ever seen, featuring gripping gameplay that provides a challenge without being too punishing so as to turn away prospective action RPG fans, all while wrapping it up in a rich story that pays deep respects to its source material in Journey to the West and Chinese mythology as a whole. I can't wait for the game myself, but let me know if you are equally jazzed about it, and definitely go ahead and dive deep into the game's intricate mechanics laid out here in this video. Be sure to participate in the giveaway of the game, and I will see all you good people real soon in the next one.